listening to Unpause Your Life with Dr. Cali Estes and Master Coach Jenny Fontana, founders of the Life Coach Method. Each one of our uplifting and deep dive episodes is geared to help you tackle the things that hold you back from having the most magnificent life you deserve. Sit back, relax, and prepare to be coached.
Welcome, everybody, to Unpause Your Life with Dr. Cali Estes, the Addictions Coach and the Addictions Academy. My guest today is very special to me. He is one of my mentors. As you know, I don't take many mentors. And he is the #1 trainer and the trainer of trainers in the Silva Method. His name is Ken Coscia. He has been around forever and has trained the top of the top of the top of the people in the Silva Method. So without further ado, welcome, Ken.
Thank you, Cali. Wow, that was a very nice introduction. I appreciate that.
I like my short and sweet introductions and my personal experience with my guests. For those of you listening, you know I talk about the Silva Method and I talk about manifestation, and you hear me say cancel a lot. And Ken is the one who taught me that. So Ken, give them a little bit of a deeper background of what the Silva Method is and how you got into teaching this 50 some years ago.
Okay. It's a long story, so I'll make it as short as possible. I think what maybe people can relate to is I had no clue. I was not interested. I was raised in a dogmatic Roman Catholic background, getting ready to become an engineer. And I didn't even know why I wanted to be an engineer other than I was told, you have great math aptitude. Went to Boston University. I'm flunking out. The harder I tried, and here's a tip for everybody. The harder I tried, the more I thought about it, the more I studied, the worse it got. I now understand I was obsessing. And that's one of the things that doesn't work when you obsess. It's scarcity consciousness. It puts you in survival mode. And it blocks, literally, physiologically blocks us from accessing higher thinking functions. 2 years after going through that, a friend of mine, I'm from Brooklyn, New York, his sister was dating the instructor just new in Brooklyn. And he said, all right, we're going to do something different. We're going to go to a mind control seminar. Those of you who know our history, we used to be called Silva Mind Control, meaning self-control. And he went on and on. I had no idea. And, Cali, with your background, I have deep respect for you and what you're doing, because working as an addiction expert, that is one tough gig. I couldn't do it. I dabbled a bit in helping people with just something as simple as smoking cessation. Oof. And one of the things that interesting, I was at a stage in my life where all I cared about was partying, having a good time, no direction, no focus. And I went to this seminar. We arrived 45 minutes late, sat in the back and laughed. And my mind was God knows where. My body was sitting in a chair. But somewhere in the middle, it's like I woke up. It's hard to describe. I'm very kinesthetic and very claircognizant, they call it. And all of a sudden I said, I found what I'm looking for. But I had no clue what I found. And I didn't know I was looking for anything. It was a compelling, and I wonder if anybody's ever had that compelling feeling drawing me. It kind of freaked me. I had all these questions. I was the last person to leave the room. There were 120 people at this presentation in Staten Island, New York. And he sent me to the library. And the more I read, the more I thought, why isn't everybody doing this? And there I was, 4 days later, even though when I told my parents, my mother turned white as a ghost, took out her rosary beads and started praying for me.
I'm going to cut you off for 1 second, because I remember you telling that in class. And I
Mm-hmm.
remember thinking to myself, the first time I told my mom I went to a Native American sweat lodge, she did the same thing. And she brought the beads out. She's like, you need to go to church. And I'm like, why? I just went to sweat lodge. She's like, oh, no, we're not talking about that in this house. And that reminded me of that. I started thinking, oh, my God. But go ahead. I cut you off.
No, you didn't cut me off. That's great. I like interacting with you. I love talking with you, by the way. Really easy. The times that we had sessions together and stuff. What you just said is priceless. And I offer it to everybody as a takeaway for all of us. The people who are the most critical of anyone or anything, and I mean anything, whether it be theologically, spiritually, politically, you name it, environmentally, they know the least. They're in superstition mode. They've heard stories. They embellish it. They make up their own narrative or story with that. And that's what I found, is that anyone who's ever been critical of this kind of work or Native American Indian art, which have been around forever, a lot longer than you and I, because they don't know anything about it and they go into fear. And again, that's another takeaway, one reason why people are not manifesting what they want and why people get stuck. They're living in survival. And they're letting their fears and superstitions and anger and all the vitriol that's all too common in the world today consume them. So they didn't know better. With that, they were concerned. Even my dad, when I asked for the money for the fee, I thought he wasn't paying attention. My dad was I don't know if I ever told you, he was a professional gambler. He was a bookmaker. And he went from starving, having nothing, to having everything, being really good with the numbers and the spread. And I'm not going to go into that. So I wound up going into the class. I did a trade with the instructor. I needed a summer job. He needed help. And I never looked back, and just was compelling. And I wasn't the best student in the room. I was kind of slow. There were people all around me who were saying, "Oh, I'm so tingling and vibe and all these colors." I would have been happy if my little finger tingled. But there was something inside driving me. And I was even defending the instructor. It's weird when you think about it, because I didn't have much information or experience. However, I applied it. Maybe being a long distance runner, I was interviewed by Penn State for a track scholarship, which I never got because I blew it, basically. Maybe a good thing, because I wouldn't have gotten into this field. But it taught me about, you want something. That's why even that word manifesting, back when I did Silva, nobody used that term. And I know what people mean. I love it. It's a beautiful term. Except some people misunderstand, and they think manifest means meditate, pray, and poof, it happens. You got to do some work, inner work, outer work. You got to have some plans, a strategy. You got to take action, whatever it might be. I think we're really more co-creators. So there I was in the class, and I was able to control my headaches without drugs, and I used to live on Anderson. I went back to school. This is Memorial Day weekend, 1971. Went back to school September. I'm studying less. I'm full-time active in the Silva organization. Thank you for what you said about me. I worked with the best of the best, the people who put Jose Silva and the Silva Method on the map globally. These are very, very good, wise business people who had a vision, saw that, and frankly, they didn't last because they were more into the vision of the business implications, if you hear what I'm saying, and not in the heart and soul of, changing the world and transforming life. But they did a lot, organized. These are the people. I had like 3 or 4 directors going back and forth from New York City to Rhode Island to Boston. I was the director of the largest graduate organization, and it gave me opportunity constantly to get a lot of feedback from people, how people, all my directors got all the accolades, but I did the grunt work, so to speak. I was with the graduates. I was with the students, mentoring them, guiding them, taking their questions. And I'm thrilled. I'm blessed because it taught me so much. I wound up graduating cum laude while I was a full-time Silva instructor, only because they did all the work, all the marketing. I just had to show up. So I taught Silva at night and on the weekends, and during the day, I was a student. And during the days when I did my homework, studied. I mean, it was wild. 6 months later, my mother, seeing all this, she took Silva. She put away her rosary, and she stopped having asthma attacks. And every single day, remember the long relax that I gift everybody who studied with me?
Yeah.
She wouldn't listen to Jose Silva. I said, "He's the man. I'm just a kid, 19-year-old kid. What do I know?" She said, No. I'm her baby. I'm the youngest in the family. She wanted my voice. I made a homemade cassette recording of this foundation exercise we call the Big Relax. I call it the Big Relax, that Jose spent 22 years perfecting. And so every day she listened to it. 30 minutes. She stopped having asthma attacks. She used to have debilitating arthritis. As a kid, all my memories, my mother was always in the hospital, sick in bed. And no more. She's volunteering. She's out. I mean, that kind of really fed the fire in my belly of, wow, what a way to make a living. And that's been all these decades. I hear these stories all the time, and I kind of wish Jose Silva were alive today, in a sense. He passed in the late 90s because in our early years, even myself, we were ostracized. The community I live in, very conservative. You've been here in Farmington,
Yeah.
ultra conservative, less and less now, but very old money. And, we'd hang out with our pediatrician, this one, that one. My wife was building our social life. And if ever the subject came up about me and what I do, no exaggeration, 2 seconds it lasted. Now, some of those people, when they see me, I never quite knew what you do. And they're asking questions because there's a ton of research, neuroscience, basically verifying all the principles that we used to be criticized about. That it's, we used to be called woo-woo. Now I can say woo-woo this.
When I sat in your class the first time and I was listening to the principles of Jose Silva, how he created this, what it did, I went, this sounds like NLP, neuro linguistic programming. And I started researching, and NLP comes from the Silva training. And a lot of people don't know that. And NLP is a psychological thing that psychologists are getting into and studying and using as an evidence-based practice. And the key components are from Jose Silva. And I saw that in your training and I was like, wow, they don't even give him credit. And I know you can't say this, but I can. I found you through Mind Valley and they don't give you credit correctly. And they're, teaching watered down principles of the true Jose Silva method. And I came to you because I wanted to learn the right way, not the commercial way. If, my listeners know what that means because I'm pretty direct. I wanted the real stuff. And go ahead.
You and I are definitely on the same wavelength because to me, it has to be a business. And that's one of the things that's helped me to sustain this practice. You've got to run it like any business, but that's not my prime motivation. And then throughout my history, if things were not going good and I didn't want to go into debt, I'd wait tables or I'd load trucks or I would dig into my hypnosis background that I learned from Jose and work on helping people stop smoking or weight loss, things to subsidize or do emotional intelligence work in organizations while I learned lessons and, corrected what needed to be corrected to build my Silva practice for that. I'd like to just add a thought, please, just to correct it. I appreciate your enthusiasm and thank you. It does seem that way. Two things. I would say God bless Mind Valley and Vision Lakiani, the owner. I know him personally. We've shared a room for 6 years. We spent 2 weeks together at our directors' meetings. The president of Silva at the time, Laura Silva Quesada, and I, as her right arm, we would go with our directors. And they really helped us a lot initially. They really did. And it helped him. And he tells a story how it saved his business. He was bleeding money. They were ready to go broke. And now he's become the largest. And you're right, it's a very commercial enterprise. It's 12 hours of pre-recorded videos. But serious students who really want the real deal, they come to my classes. 50 people in the room were maxed out. 15 of them because of Mind Valley. So God bless you, Mind Valley, because they advertise so much. And I find serious students like you want the real deal. And they've read books and said, this isn't the course. This is because there are a lot of books that outline the course. And, so the other thing about NLP, in Jose's history, if he were alive today, he would say, I haven't done anything new. He used to say that to us frequently. What he did do was he spent 20 some odd years studying hypnosis. He became a master hypnotist, was doing certification trainings. I went through that back in 71 with him. In fact, Jose certified me. I didn't even go to the official instructor certification until 2 years of working full time because there was obstacles in my way. I was a student, and I used to follow him around New York and did some things with him and Harry McKnight. But my point is, he studied Milton Erickson. And truth be told, NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, originated from Milton Erickson's work, John Grinder, Richard Bandler, Virginia Satir, the original people. They studied him because he was amazing. People would see him and they get results. And they researched, I think it was for a couple of years, and they noticed nuances and things that are really not necessarily from Silva per se. Some aspects, absolutely, some principles. I would say, and then they went off, and as it became more commercial, it has evolved. I haven't paid attention to it in recent years. I'm heart and soul of Silva. I've gone through some NLP training years ago. It's cool. I enjoyed it. I got value, but it wasn't my thing, if you hear what I'm saying.
Mhm.
I've done a lot of trainings, and it helps me. I basically say, okay, what can I learn? How can I improve me so I can do a better job in facilitating this work of art that Silva put together? So Jose married hypnosis and meditation, and we even have an exercise called hand levitation, which comes from, with permission, from Dr. Milton Erickson. Currently, I think it's evolved. You could say the same thing about TM, the Maharishi Mahesh Yogi. It's a great program, very evidence-based. People love it, get good value from it. But in the early days, you would think he'd be our ally. He used to poo-poo and criticize Jose and his work. He said, you can't be active. You can't meditate and be active. You'll lose it. And his instructors were not very professional. And then as time has gone by, if you look at Maharishi University, it has evolved. They're teaching many of the same kind of principles. We call it dynamic meditation. And Mr. Silva's breakthrough was you can get into this beautiful meditative state. If that's all you do and you bliss out, you'll boost your immune system, you'll stabilize your whole body, blood pressure, blood sugar levels, cholesterol levels, and that's fact. You'll age more gracefully, you'll think more clearly, you'll access your intuition. But he also found is with skill and practice, and it takes training, you can visualize creatively, you can process stuff and do what we call the inner work for self-improvement, to change patterns. Like you as an addiction expert, you understand this better than probably any of us on the call here, is that you can do all sorts of things, but if they don't make a shift inside in their attitude, in their thinking, in their mindset, on top of the physiological changes that are necessary, on top of the environmental changes that are necessary, and forgive me if I'm minimizing it, I'm just working on making a point. Anyway, so it's I love it because I feel so blessed to be involved in the original idea. There's so much out there that some thought leaders like Wayne Dyer, T. Harv Eker, Bill Harris, Vishen Lakhiani, to name a few, definitely give a lot of credit, and have written nice letters about the Silva Method in the past with that. But like you said, so many, beg and borrow. If you attend a class with me, and you have, I'm constantly referring to other people. I believe, hey, give credit where it's due. If I've read something or learned something from somebody that sparked an idea, I reference it. Because,
Yeah.
we're in this together. We got to collaborate. That's the only way we're going to have a better world, is if people stop fighting and raising their ego stuff and just learn to collaborate. And how can we help each other?
That's awesome. And when I'm working with clients, I teach them the cancel technique all the time. I use it this morning. I had a friend of mine on a call this morning. We were going through podcasting and marketing and such, and she was all in her head. And she's like, I'm so worried if I think the wrong thought, I'll manifest it. And I said, well, do you know the cancel technique? And she said, the what? I said, every time you have a negative thought, you say cancel and create a new thought. And she goes, what? It's that easy? I said, yeah. So she goes, every time. I'm like, every time. She goes, that's going to be all day. I said, then all day long, whatever you're doing, it's cancel. So,
You're so funny. That's great. I love that. By the way, real quick thing to add some of that. If everybody, you just repeat cancel, I admit, it's ridiculous. It sounds bizarre. Who talks like that? But what it is psychologically, Jose never went to school a day in his life. Although he studied a lot of what's become known as positive psychology, I never heard him use this term, pattern interrupter. That's what it is. It's so outrageous. It's so outlandish. It's so ridiculous that it's like it's like a kick in the butt. And it works because we're very much creatures of habit, and we've wired our brain, and we've got these, I'll put it that way, we've got these patterns of behavior, patterns of speech. We don't even realize it. And even the way we're wired neurologically, it's too easy to, by default, go to the negative, because by number one priority is to be is survival. Number two, security. And because of that, we're always on alert, looking, is this safe? Is this okay? In fact, when people come to my training, I always bring them up. Guaranteed, so many of them woke up in the morning and said, where am I going? What am I doing? And if you have that feeling, good. I encourage my students, embrace being uncomfortable, because if you're really doing the inner work, it's not all wine and roses. There's going to be a point where you're going to be uncomfortable. Why? Not because it's going to hurt you, it's going to help you, but because you're thinking out of the box. You're stepping out of familiar territory. You're stepping into an area that's not predictable. Some people, unfortunately, and again, I don't mean to minimize, unconsciously, they'd rather live in the predictability of their problem. Whereas to take charge, to command, to change it, we don't know. And here's a little, can I call it a pro tip? I don't know where that came from, popped in my head earlier. I just sent some information to my team of instructors. And that is, and this has been up, and I've seen it trending, and it really works, is that you don't necessarily know definitively what you're going to do to lead a purpose-driven life. You don't have, XYZ job or career in mind. When people look for that, you're going to get confused because it's too much, it's overwhelming. But if we can just focus on how you want to live, the quality of life, the things you like to do, to simplify. Do you like working with technology? Do you like working with people? Do you like to be on your feet a lot? Do you like to be on the move? How do you want to feel? And if you just play with that, a vision of your life in a quiet state, few slow, deep breaths, take your time, and just as if it's happened already, imagine living a purpose-driven life. What would it look like to you? How would you feel? How would you get up in the morning? What will you be able to do? How will it benefit you? How will it affect your finances and your career? Because the old saying, if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life, which out of context sounds odd, because you and I both know we work hard for our clients.
Yeah, we do.
But we sustain it, and you got to have a break. You got to have self-care. Boy, this summer I've said this to you. I've had summer fever, especially as it's coming to a close. Oh God, my children are all older in their 40s and stuff. Say, hey, let's take a high-speed ferry ride to Provincetown and bring our bikes and bike around for the day. And then there's another island that's even closer, Block Island. I'm doing all sorts of stuff like that in concerts. You got to do that because it kind of adds to the meaningfulness of what we're doing. Plus, it gives us a chance to rest and recuperate.
Yeah, you said a couple things. The first one is uncomfortability produces change. And when in addiction medicine, when I'm dealing with clients, that's the first thing I teach them, is that you're going to get uncomfortable. If you want change and lasting change, you're going to be uncomfortable, and then you're going to have to do things you've never done before. And I start with them, little bit by little bit. We'll do a mindset shift, or we'll do a cancel or a brain dump to get them in the thought process of making a 180, because you're giving up a lot of bad behavior for some good quality life purpose. And you can't figure out your life purpose if you're sitting there every day going, oh my God, what am I supposed to do today? What is my life purpose? It's not going to just pop in your head. You're going to be like, oh, there it is. You have to, have purposeful life meaning and walk with intention, as I call it.
Yes, so well put. Beautiful. And I would add also, and if you can't pay your bills and you're struggling financially, it's going to be hard to find your life, be on purpose, because you're in survival mode, and it's hard to come from your heart. When you can come from your heart and say, I'm here because I want to be here. Like, for example, and I'm guessing you feel the same way. I love what I do. It's fun. And I like thriving, and I like earning a good living for that. Yeah. That's not my prime motivation, but it allows me to do what I do. It allows me the freedom to be able to do what I do, and also raise a family. We have 3 grandchildren, 3 children. But so my point was, to back a tip that we, at any level we can do, is, and this, God, I think I started doing this in 1986, as memory serves me. Future self. Remember that exercise?
Yes.
If people when people spend time in just imagining a happier, a healthier, a more productive future, the kind of people you want to interact with, the kind of life you want to be, and what you have that you bring to the game. It's like for people looking for a spouse or a significant other. Yeah. But the key is, what do you bring to the game? Why would anyone want to have a relationship with you? Why would anybody want to do business with you? Why would anybody want to study with you? Why would anyone want to buy insurance from you? What do you bring to the game? And that's what I mean by your future self, and you're imagining that. And that's when we access our intuition. It's the quickest way, on top of adding some gratitude, appreciation, as if it's happened already. It's the quickest way to access your intuition and to be guided to make the right moves. And it changes also your brain state. And the research is there showing that. I'm not talking, woo-woo stuff. It literally will change the brain state because we're slipping out of survival mode. So what you said, that's a great tip. That's why people work with you, Cali, and get that, because people really need to. When I hear people say, "Oh, it's so easy," yeah, right. Give me a break. Really, sure. And right now, Stephen Kotler's work, I've been following him. Remember in Stealing Fire and Flow, all their flow studies, and he made a really good point about right now. It's the fastest growing industry on the planet. It's booming. There are more thought leaders out there than ever before. And now with AI and ChatGPT and so on and so forth, it's getting easier and easier. But the challenge is they've got very sophisticated marketing and mediocre talent or mediocre
content.
Content. Thank you.
Yep. I've seen a lot of that. I've had a lot of clients come to me and say they're following this person on TikTok or Instagram or what have you. And I go and I'm like, they're giving horrible advice. It's not accurate. And they've got hundreds of thousands of people following them. And I'm thinking, this ethically, is not okay. But there's no governance on this stuff. No one's saying, hey, don't do that. And if people start making money at something, sometimes we have some unethical creatures that are going to run that for the money. And it's sad because there's people getting hurt in the process.
Yeah, I'm now in my 54th year doing this work. I've seen so many people come and go, take the money and run, like they have their 15 minutes of fame with that. But, on the one hand, I think it's great that people are aspiring to help people. People are aspiring to make a difference. Absolutely. We need so many light workers. We need so many people making a difference. That what I feel challenged, like what you were just saying, to support what you're saying, is that it's not enough to read a book or attend a certification, and then all of a sudden they set themselves up as, now you can go to my certification. I'm going to tell you how to make six figures or more, and they haven't even done it themselves.
That's so true, because I read Jose Silva's first book, and I was doing the meditations, and I said to myself, you're not ready to do this. You need hands-on, in-person, in-depth training. And I come from a healing background. I've studied crystals, shamanism, the Native American stuff. I've done all of that. I've done the levitations. I've worked with a couple guys in Colombia. And I'm reading this book going, you're not ready for this. So, and I flew up to see you for the first training. And then afterwards I did them, the master training. And I'd like to come up and do another training. And I'm not selling it because it's not something I feel I'm good at it. I know how to use it, but it's not something that I've mastered, if that makes sense, yet. So a lot of people, they learn a little bit of something and go, I'm the master at it. And then they have a student who knows more than them. And then it becomes an issue.
I feel like the more I know, the less I know. And that's one of the things, you like straight talk, when you were first in the class and then getting to know you and your background, a little red flag went off in my head. Not because of you personally, but because of your credentials. And sometimes people who have credentials like you and have all that background, they sit there, oh, I know all this, this is so elementary, and then they don't hear anything and they don't focus, and then I'll invite them to leave. But that wasn't you. You were there and you brought everything in there and you listened, and I don't remember your questions, but it was a joy. But that says a lot about you, because you know a lot. And I go to seminars. I go to events myself all the time. You'd never know I am who I am and that I know what I know, because I go in there and I sort of blank out, if that makes sense. I go there to learn. A student, I sit as close to the front as I can, and I'm there, to learn and get something out of it. I'm not there to proselytize with that. But to go back to this thing, reading a book, I think one way that we can all protect ourselves is ask questions. Hey, this sounds great. They got this superb, fancy marketing with this, but find out, how long have you been doing it? Who did you study with? How long have you sustained it? Et cetera, et cetera. Ask questions and get to the truth, and listen to how people answer rather than just jumping on it, because there's a pattern there. I'm no marketing expert, but I've had to study marketing and apply it. Otherwise, in fact, people still complain to us, this is an incredible course, but you guys are like invisible. That's why I say God bless Mind Valley, because they're a marketing company. That's what they do, and they're excellent in their marketing.
Mm-hmm.
Even their sales page on the program he sells, the Ultramind, technically he's not supposed to be using Silva Method, by the way, but it's not being enforced. Everybody on that sales page never heard of him or what this 12-hour program. They all took what we used to call the original program, the basic lecture series. I met many of those people, work with them. I have a funny story with Shakti Gawain, creative visualization. She's on their page. She talked at one of our conferences. I even got to dance with her. And I remember it. She probably doesn't. Sure. But my little claim. But my point is, you go on there and, well, I don't want to go into judgment mode. Is that I just believe, let's be straight with people. Let's tell the truth. Be who you are. Be authentic, and you'll attract people who resonate with that.
Yeah. Well, I think that's true. And that's one thing I learned in your class, was that not every client is for you. Not every person that's coming to you is the person you're supposed to help. You may only be planting a seed, or, a knowledge nugget, as I call it, and then they figure something out from there. And you're not here to help and save everybody. You're here to help and save the people that resonate with your message. So when I teach my students, even in addiction or mental health, I tell them law of attraction is 3 steps: intention, gratitude, action. You're not going to make anything happen without those 3. Yeah, a lot of people have this intention. I want to be wealthy. Okay, well, are you grateful for the $10 you found on the street today? Well, no, it's only $10. Well, universe isn't going to give you more if you don't appreciate the $10 you have. Why would universe give you more? And then there's no action. What have you done to earn more? Nothing. So that pattern in addiction a lot works really well, because people in active addiction want everything given to them with no work. And I use that from your lecture.
I don't remember saying that, but can I use that? I like that.
Yeah. You said something.
Intention, gratitude, and action. I'm gonna do a short video on it. I probably did.
Yeah.
I'm like you. I'm not scripted, so sometimes people say, "Can you repeat that?" And I say, "Repeat what?"
Yeah, I do the same thing. I'm like, "Oh, did I say something? What did I say?" Yeah, but that's how I simplify it for people who say, how do I make things? How do I manifest things? Because I tell them everything I've made, I manifested. I went, from having negative $300 in my bank account to starting a company. Well, how did you do it? I just did it. Well, what did you do? These are the steps I took. I had intention, gratitude, and action. And I was grateful for the first client I got. It was only $2,500, but it was my first client. And I was so thankful. And I sent that out to the universe that I got another client. And then I was thankful for that one and got another one. And that's how it works. And I explain it to them because they don't see the little things that come to their lives, the little miracles. And they say, that's not enough. I have a client that wanted a car. And I said, well, how much money do you have? And he had like $6,000 or $7,000 saved up. I said, oh, you'll get like a nice used Honda. He said, I don't want a Honda. I said, what do you want? He said, I want a Maserati. I said, you have a couple $1,000s. You're not going to buy a Maserati. He goes, well, until I have the money, I'm not buying a car. And I said, you're not even grateful for what you have. You'll never make it there. And he goes, well, that's just piddly money. And I said, you should be grateful for what you have, and then you get more. If you're not grateful for it, you don't get more. This is how it works. And he eventually learned the hard way. He was very ungrateful and ended up losing all of it and then had to start over. He goes, fine, I'll try it your way. And I'm like, okay, try it my way. And he did. And he got really good at it. And he went from being a very negative individual doing drugs and alcohol to being very, very successful. So a lot of these principles that you teach can be applied in everyday life and every aspect of your life.
Absolutely. And I think part of the message is, I like to tell people, you bring everything you need with you. It's all within you. We're all graced with possibilities. We're all graced with human potential. The challenge is not too many people taught us how to use it. And what's maybe missing is the instruction manual, or we sabotage ourselves. There's all sorts of stuff called being a human being that interferes and creates obstacles in our path to having a more fulfilling life.
Yeah. We are running out of time, and this has been such a great conversation. What's one knowledge nugget you could leave the listeners with that they could take and use?
Ooh. Mm-hmm. Well, we went to the one that really pops up a lot is, I would say, complain less and praise more.
That's a great one.
We said, and if I can just explain myself, anybody can complain. There's a lot to complain about. Absolutely. I'm with you. I have my own list. But that gets us into survival mode. That gets into critical mode. And then some people get depressed over it. So observe what needs to be done, acknowledge it, sure, but then move on. Start asking, how can I turn it around? How can I make this not affect me or my family? What steps can I take? And then also look for good in people and things around us, because there seems to be, we keep being told there's so much anger out there and vitriol. It's true. And there are also countless really good people making a difference, active in the communities, but they don't get the attention that the others get.
Yeah. That's an excellent knowledge nugget, because there's so much negativity, especially with the political climate and the way the world is today. Everybody's angry. So
Yep.
if we focus on just being positive within ourselves, we can make a difference one person at a time.
Exactly. And when people are complaining, it's all about making each other wrong, rather than, okay, how would you do it? If you don't like this idea, hey, we need that. That's how we grow, is that when trust emerges, that's when the magic happens. And if people collaborate and open up and listen to each other, that's how we can grow and solve problems. But as long as we keep complaining, and that's why things are really basically not changing. It doesn't matter who's in charge. For the most part, it's the same old, isn't it?
It is, exactly. It's collaboration, not competition. And that's what we need to focus on. We're not competing. I tell everybody there's plenty of clients to go around. I'm not competing with anybody. The clients that need my help will show up in the time that they need my help, and I'll be available and open to assist. Instead of competing, we should collaborate.
Exactly. And also speak up, show up, and be consistent. Let people know who you are. It's not enough to sit back on the sidelines waiting for it to happen and people to find you magically. Obviously, and that's, I guess, what we call marketing. And marketing, not in the crass sense, but in the sense of just letting people know who you are, what you have to offer, and be available to answer questions, and then take it from there.
Absolutely. And Ken, how can people find you in the Silva Method if they want more information or to attend one of your fabulous trainings?
Oh, thank you. Silva Method of Connecticut, Silva Method of Boston, Silva Method of Chicago, and I'll show right up. The actual website is Silva Method CT, C as in Charlie, T as in Tom, silvamethodct.com. And listeners, if you're the least bit interested, I invite you. You're welcome to subscribe. It's a weekly newsletter. I put it out every week. It's got training videos. And even on my blog page, it's all video training. Some of them are 5-10 minutes. Many of them are 90 minutes, actual mini workshops. That's me. There's very, very little marketing on my blog page. And I would say 95% or more, other than letting people know I have a course and it's available. If you're interested, do this, do that.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. And we're going to put all those links up directly on the website and all the social media and all the hashtags. So if you're interested in more information, as you know, I've gone through the training. I loved it. I took my sister through the training, and I refer my students and my clients as well to take the training in their leisure time. So thank you so much for coming on, Ken. And
You're welcome.
I love
My
the
pleasure.
work you're doing.
Thank you.
Thank you for doing the work you're doing, and appreciate having you on. And you have been listening to Unpause Your Life with Dr. Cali Estes.
Thank you for listening to Unpause Your Life with Dr. Cali Estes and Master Coach Jenny Fontana. Head over to www.thelifecoachmethod.com to learn more about coaching yourself and how to become a master coach.